Hi there. I'd like to talk to you about grief and fighting. Grief is a funny situation. I talk about it a great deal of times with people online who are in recovery from whatever's bothering them. And it takes a lot of forms. And being a warrior, that takes a lot of forms too. It takes a lot of bravery. But so does grief. Getting past grief takes a lot of bravery. So if you're a brave person who cares about the environment, I'd like to talk to you. I'd like to talk to you about what it's like to feel like you're alone, facing a problem that no one seems to have the answer to, and no one seems to know where it's going or when it's coming. It's like having a tornado on the way and not having a radio or any other way of knowing anything. That's kind of the way it feels like to be concerned about our environment, to be an ecologist or a deep ecologist or someone who just cares about the planet, or parents who have children, or folks who have grandchildren or great-grandchildren and are just thinking about the future and wondering what is going on. And I thought today, with things kind of blowing in the background, it sort of mimicked what's happening with our world and trying to understand better what's happening. And I've come to YouTube because I want to leave a legacy of what I know and what I've experienced. But what I really would like to do as a final goal is to bring together some people who feel like I do, like they've felt sad, grieved, concerned, aware, conscious. They felt some level of perhaps preparedness, perhaps dealing with just the sadness alone and wanting someone else to talk to. I know I do. I want to be able to express why my passion is so deep about the environment, why I've spent years expressing myself in fiber, like one of these bib overalls that I show on here sometimes has the crocheted heart that's connected to a human heart, connected to a butterfly heart, connected to a forest and mountains. And we get the oxygen from the mountains and we reach into the forest for healing because nature heals. And yet nature is in trouble, and we're grief warriors. We're still fighting. We're still fighting to try to find out what we can do, how we can change it, how we can find ways to talk to our children about it, how we can make a difference, how we can adapt when we're planting trees or planting a garden or whatever we're doing, whatever future thing we're thinking about. And how we'd like to come together and think of some solutions, or at least some ways that we can calm ourselves or look at the world a little differently and find a way to not be so anxious. That's what I call a grief warrior, someone who's really caring about what's happening, notices that we have climate change, notices that it's affecting all kinds of things all over this planet. And yet the answers we're getting, we just don't make sense. You know, I can remember when Rachel Carson's book was published in 1962, Silent Spring, and people were saying, oh yeah, the problem is DDT, and we just need to make some changes there and everything's going to be fine. We don't have to be concerned. And yet I knew from what my father had taught me about being careful as an organic farmer and making sure that you weren't using chemicals and you weren't harming the environment. And even when we went camping, just camping, he'd make sure that it never looked like we'd been there. And when we'd care for a chicken, or when we'd care for a cow or a horse or whatever it was, bartering his onions in exchange for a meal in a restaurant in New Mexico. Whatever it was we were doing, and my father was, when he was recalled into the military, having having picked up what was on the ground in Roswell, New Mexico, when the space, they call it a weather balloon. No, it was space junk. He picked it up. It laid heavy on his heart that he knew the government was hiding, and they're hiding now. They're hiding the truth about climate change. In the same way my husband was in an airplane and Tricky Dicky, President Nixon, was saying on the radio that they weren't flying over where he exactly was flying at that very moment with his crew, and they've been ordered to go in that area. These things come to us. We know that the government lies to us. You know that there's so many things they don't inform us of, and right now climate change is one of them. And yet, how do we face this? How do we go forward with all of this knowledge and deal with our feelings and our inability to do anything other than come together and try to find some plans? Now, some of us have taken steps. I know my husband and I have taken steps to put away some food, because with climate change, we're liable to have problems with supply chains. And now, right now, in this world, we're having problems with oil being moved around and wars going on. There's 3 different wars going on right now that we can't do it. We're vulnerable. We can't do anything about it. I talked last week to some people in Europe, and they're very, very concerned about, there's a war in Iran, and there's a war in the Gaza Strip, and there's a war in the Ukraine, and God only knows, which is a saying more than anything, where there's going to be a war next, and where there's going to be a shortage next, and where there's going to be a concern next, and bringing us grief. But the grief that we feel is also the vulnerability that we feel, not only for ourselves, but for everyone we love and everyone we care about, including our animals and our mountains, our plants, our trees. All of these things are a big concern. I've been online with Dr. Guy McPherson for nearly 20 years now, listening to what he reports from peer-reviewed papers about what's happening around the world, what's changed, what's been over-predicted, what's been under-predicted, what changes just continue to occur, what remarkable reports come in, what subtle reports come in, and how this coming summer is supposed to be the hottest yet. I know that I just talked to someone in California. It was 95 in March. We can't do anything about this specifically at this time. We don't know what to do specifically at this time, but what we can do is we can talk to each other about it. We can share our feelings, our concerns, our thoughts, our hesitations about the future, what kind of options we've decided on to go forward, how we've decided to live our lives now, how we're decided to face whether this is climate change or economic collapse or political collapse or supply chain collapse or health collapse or another pandemic. That's one of the things Guy McPherson's told me. Because of the changes in climate, we're liable to have more pandemics. And, you know, the COVID changed us a lot, but that's not the only pandemic. I have lived with the pandemic that hit my life when I was only 5. I suffered from the ages of 5 till 9, 4 years with rheumatic fever. And I had friends who were suffering with polio. Both of those were going around at the same time. That was a pandemic. We didn't wear masks. We didn't take any precautions to speak of. We didn't have really, well, we had a vaccine for polio. Of course, I was given that. It was forced on all of us at school. We parents didn't give permission. It was just done. We were lined up and given the polio vaccine. But there wasn't a vaccine for rheumatic fever, and that's what I got. And it's been a part of my life ever since, which is maybe part of the reason why when Guy McPherson said that climate change was liable to bring more pandemics, I was so affected by that, because I had already experienced that in my childhood, and the end results. I have hyperacusis. My brain, my ears don't work right because the message from my ears, which really are functioning correctly, don't get to my brain. So my ears hear only 10% of what's going on if it's a mechanical sound. I do pretty good when I'm in natural situations, which is why I'm always longing to be in a farm away from so much man-made noise. But it's still really scary to know all those years that when I was at such an impressionable age, I'd be sitting minding my own business, not doing anything out of the ordinary, and all of a sudden, within 10 minutes, I'd go from a normal temperature to 106, delirium, and have to be thrown into an ice water bath. That's not a comfortable thing for a kid, and constantly being taken in to the hospital, the military hospital, and they would do an EKG on me. And what am I supposed to know about what a heart is when I'm 5 years old, and how it's so important to the entire body, and the fact that living to be 35, only 25% of the kids live to be 50. And yet that hung on me. And why didn't that happen to me? I don't understand. I don't have any idea. But what are you supposed to say to your kids now about what's happening with climate change, with so many other challenges that seem to have come all at the same time? Especially 3 wars, leadership issues, political upheaval, so many things that just interfere with, oh, I'm going to retire in 5 years and live on an island in the Pacific. No, it's probably not a good way to look at your future, because there's just so many things that are insecure. But I think together we can give each other some comfort, because in so many cases, getting over something, being able to deal with something, is just becoming part of a community that understands whatever the issue might be. Having a community. Why do people go to therapists? They go to therapists because they listen and they appear to understand, and they offer solutions. But when you meet somebody and they say, oh yeah, I feel the same way. Wow. That's a little bit different situation. Although it's a lay person, it's still a different situation. It affords some comfort. It affords some assurance that you're not nuts. It affords some assurance that you're not alone, that you're not thinking these things because there's something wrong with how you were wired, or how you were raised, or how your thought process works. I've got some rice put away and some lentils put away. Is that a lot? No. No. But it gives me some comfort. What are you doing? Have you put away something that maybe 2 5-gallon buckets of water? I mean, our water literally here in Ecuador goes off from time to time. So having 2 5-gallon buckets or 5-gallon bottles of water makes sense. It really does. I mean, it's a logical thing when you live somewhere where the water goes off. And right now they're repairing the road. They're doing a lot of work out there. They've broken the water pipes a number of times. But can you look at that way about climate change? Can you look at that way about future? Have you changed how you invest your money? Have you changed plans you've made for having a baby? How many young people have said, I'm not sure I want to have kids? How many young people have said, I don't think I need to go to college? I mean, the young kids are looking at this a lot differently than somebody my age. My next birthday, I'll be 80. I don't have to worry about whether I want to have a marriage and a family and kids and grandkids and great-grandkids, because I've already done that. I've already outlived predictions. I already know what it's like to live in a pandemic. 2, 3. I want to know how you feel. What's bothering you? How have you looked at this situation and overlooked it and considered it? And if you want to get in touch with me, I'll be happy to meet you on Zoom. I'll be happy to put a group together on Zoom. I'll be happy to have regular meetings or occasional meetings, and one-on-one or group-to-group, whatever you want to do. However anyone wants to talk about it. Personally, I work with deepadaptation.org. There's also Collapse Club. There's also Earth Listening. There's a number of different groups out there that really are concerned. Guy McPherson has a regular group, meets every Wednesday night. We do have some options already, but not, as far as I know, speaking out like this on YouTube, making a deal about it, asking for people to come together and think about it, expressing ourselves in art as myself and my friend does. Both of us are over 75. Both of us make different pictures that just remind people to take care of this earth. But yet, in one sense of it, I feel like I haven't succeeded. I've not failed, but I haven't succeeded. Because 1962 was a long time ago. And ever since then, I felt like a warrior screaming through the woods naked with a sword. I don't know. I can't imagine how I picture myself. I just keep saying, here I am. There's this beautiful, beautiful earth behind me. And I don't feel like I can do enough. I feel vulnerable. I know that all of my neighbors, they're all subsistence farmers, they all agree with me. I mean, these folks know now they can plant corn all year round because nothing has stayed the same. Rains are different. Used to be a wet season and a dry season. Yeah, there's still a wet season and a dry season, but they're overlapping each other and not making sense and not as reliable as they were as little as 3 years ago. They've changed more and more and more. And other people have seen the same. And that hot summer is still coming. So if you're thinking about it, if you're looking to connect with someone, leave me some information, some way to contact you, questions, anything. Let me know. If you want to meet me on Zoom, I'm glad to do that too. Are you sad? Are you grieving? But are you not giving up? Those are the people I'm looking for. The people who are giving up, oh, I hope you can come together and get stronger. But for those of you who are still grieving and not giving up, I'm here. Thank you for coming along.